inspiring success story, many years in the making. This book is called One of a Kind. It was written by a man who started life in England, where he was orphaned twice. He went from foster home to foster home and ended up becoming a successful entrepreneur. And today, he calls the Indianapolis area home. Tony Moore joins us live today to tell us more about his book and the incredible life that inspired it. Welcome, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Carrie. Very nice to be here.
Thank you. Well, you started out, you were born in England to a mother who had TB, and consequently, you were never even allowed to live with her, and that really started off a childhood of instability.
Yes, that's right. It was rife in England at that time, and it was so contagious that it was determined that I should be moved into care. So life for me took a very different path at that point.
And when you talk about that very different path, fast forward, you ended up getting an education in engineering and starting many businesses. Tell me a little bit about how you turned that unstable childhood into such a positive midlife.
Well, you know, people have different ways of dealing with problems. I learned to close the door on all the bad stuff and keep moving forward. And I think through doing that, I learned to survive pretty much. By the age of 11, I guess you'd call me a survivalist. And, you know, I had to put myself through college, which I did, and I had to make money, so I learned to sing and play the guitar and played all around London and the southeast of England and supplemented, you know, what I couldn't earn at that point. Got an engineering degree, and life just took off after that, really.
Wow, and you ended up here in the Indianapolis area where you started a company that designed and supplied gloves for the entire U.S. Army as well as the Fire Department of New York.
Yeah, that's right. But there was a couple of steps before that. I also launched a fragrance company here in Indianapolis with a fragrance called Stardust. That was about 10 or 11 years ago. And I have no idea how you go from learning to do stardust and fragrances into designing firefighting gloves and gloves for the United States Army. I still, to this day, have no idea how that happens, but it did.
Wow, and the overriding theme in this book, as you've stated and as we see, is really, like you said, learning how to overcome life's challenges and make the most out of it. You talked about it, and I just love this at the end, about, you quoted some retirees, and they were asked what would they change about their lives, and they said they would take more risks.
Yes.
What would you tell people to encourage them to just take charge full speed ahead?
Absolutely. You know, it appeals to young people, what my message is, and it was never meant to be that kind of message. When you write it, it takes on a life of its own. And my message to young people is try it. You know, try it. Risk success. Risk failure. Don't worry about the consequences. I mean, that doesn't mean at 45 years old you want to suddenly become a pilot of a 747 or a fighter jet pilot. It has to be tempered with what your abilities are. But many of the themes in the book are also that we're all given divine talents. And it's up to each of us if we want to use those talents or whether we want to not use them. And there's no right or wrong in this, Carrie. It's up to the individual. But if you use the talents, it's like nothing happened. And you become really good at what you do.
Well, Tony Moore, author of One of a Kind, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for sharing your life and the principles you learned in this book. You can pick up this book on Amazon.com.
Amazon.com, Ex Libris, yes.
All right, excellent. Well, in our